Welcome back to Game Day Recap, Week 7 edition. Boy, the seat gets hotter and hotter. I don't know how much hotter it can get at this point in South Florida for head coach Mike McDaniel. Another loss. This one felt different, though, guys. It felt like the Dolphins really just didn't have anything to play for out there. They lose to the Browns, which makes matters worse. And so now we've got to discuss what's next for this South Florida team as we welcome you back into our CBS Sports HQ studios. Haley Sutton alongside Danny Kanell, Carthon, and our guy Pete Prisco over there. This conversation isn't new to us, fellas. We've been talking really since the preseason and in the offseason and beyond about when they should make a coaching change here. So we always try to push the story forward. But today, for me, was the first time that it felt like Mike McDaniel realizes that this was too much out of his control. During halftime, he was talking to Aditi Kinkhabwala, and his halftime, he was asked, what are you going to do in the second half? And he's like, well, we just got to stop making all these self-inflicted wounds and we'll be all right. But Pete, that's been the conversation with this Dolphins team, is that they are not good and they continue to make mistakes and the coach is not doing anything about it. So where do we go from here?
Well, you also have to put a bullseye on the quarterback. I mean, let's be real. This is a quarterback who they gave a big contract extension to, thought he was their franchise, put up big numbers when they were the fun, wide-open, fast offense, and now all of a sudden he can't make plays. And he threw a pick six, probably should have thrown a second pick six that was intercepted and returned for point blank for points, setting up the Browns' easy score. So we all know Mike McDaniel's going. I mean, that's when it happens, how it happens, we don't know, but he's going. I assume Chris Greer is going as well. We don't know when, but he's going to go. What about Tua? Is the new staff, the new regime, the new GM, is he going to be sold on Tua? Have you seen anything from Tua right now that would make you believe he was their franchise quarterback, the way he's playing right now? And it hasn't been just this year either. There's also the injury concerns. There's also, you want to talk about it, and we called him out for it last week, the leadership issues. And he came out this week and apologized after saying what he did. I just don't think it's a very good situation. It starts at the top, it trickles down, and if I'm Stephen Ross, I'm looking at the entire thing and thinking, you know what? I should have a fire sale starting at the trade deadline. Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer, whatever I can get for him, you're going. And then we'll see what you go. If somebody offers me a first-round pick for Waddle, I'll trade him too. Because the reality is this team is going nowhere. There's going to be wholesale changes. They need to make changes. And you look at coach, quarterback, general manager, I think all of them are in question.
We just talked about it in the last segment. Would you rather have this starting quarterback, backup running back? Seeing Tua play puts more of an emphasis on why you have to have a quarterback. They turned the ball over 4 times today, and he accounted for all 4 of those turnovers. Pete said it should have been another pick six, right? That would have made it 5. But he threw 3 picks, fumbled once, but fumbled a total of 3 times today, right? Completed right at 100 yards on the day. And this was a game where weather was going to affect, right? It was heavy winds to start the day. It was rainy. You have 2 quarterbacks who don't have strong arms as is. And so you knew they were going to have to rely heavily on the run game. And the Browns were able to do that, right? Because they just leaned on what they do well. And coming into the season, we knew that the Dolphins could run the ball or should be able to run the ball. Just schematically, they should have been able to run the ball. But for whatever reason, they have not featured the run game. They just continue to put the ball into his hands and allow him to throw the ball. And as we've seen, and don't criticize me to it, it's facts, the turnovers have come in bunches.
It is interesting that ever since that reporter asked him about throwing interception in bunches and he scoffed at it, that seems like that's all he's done. I mean, this is his 5th game with 3 or more interceptions in his career, his 3rd this season. And so obviously, Danny, when you look at the quarterback, that's a lot of the responsibility. Take me, I guess, inside that locker room as well when you've got a Tua, right? Because Tua was the one, and Pete, you can attest to this, Tua was the one coming into training camp that said the culture is fine. I've fixed things with Tyreek Hill. We're okay. And then you have him last week saying, well, now the leadership is a problem. So from a player standpoint, a player in that locker room, how do you get past what we've seen over the last couple of weeks?
But not just a player, quarterback.
Right.
Fair.
This locker room is broken. It could not be any clearer. Is anybody surprised what we saw today? Did that surprise anybody? That to me was the least surprising.
It surprised Mike McDaniel.
Oh, yes, of course.
It did surprise Mike McDaniel.
That today was the least surprising outcome of any game we saw today. And that speaks volumes about how broken this locker room as far as leadership, culture, respect for your head coach, all of it. The quarterback issues, it's all out there. Because not only did he turn it over, he's also throwing ambulance balls out there. He almost got Malik Washington killed by putting him out. And it just looked like Tua is just kind of mailed it in himself. And Mike McDaniel looks like a lame duck coach who knows he's going out the door. So I totally agree with you guys. I think you've got to tear this thing down all the way down to the studs and build from scratch, next year with a new coach, a new general manager, a new quarterback. Fernando Mendoza is from the South Florida area. He'd be perfect in case you want to know who they should go get.
Already.
Yes, I mean, just go make that move happen. But it's so evident, and I don't know how you repair some of the damage that's been done with relationships. It is a relational business. It's a relational locker room. That's the way it should be. The healthiest locker rooms are where you build up trust in one another and you play hard for each other. You don't throw guys under the bus. You don't air out your dirty laundry. You don't throw guys out there and say, hey, this guy's not coming to meetings. This guy's late to meetings. You just handle that behind closed doors. To me, it's broken beyond repair, and it needs to be completely burned down.
But if you had a passer rating of 120 through 3 touchdown passes instead of the 24 and 100 yards passing, 100 yards, 3 picks, 24 rating, it's terrible.
And I think you make a great point, because you said if you have a new coach or a new general manager who's going to want to inherit Tua, I don't think anybody does because of the injury history. Like, you have to call a game plan worried about, what if he takes too many hits to his head. You better have a great backup situation. And I do think there's a crisis of confidence that Tua's had throughout his career. When you heard what happened at the end of the Bowles era, when it was not the Todd Bowles era, the
Flores.
Brian Flores era, when he was too harsh on him and too critical of him, all of a sudden his confidence was cratered. Now we're back at a place where it looks like his confidence is cratered. It's way too much of a roller coaster ride.
What would Tua be on the market? I'm a GM question. Tua's on the market. You can trade for him. What are you giving up for him?
If I'm taking on the contract?
If you need
4 years, 212.4 roughly is the contract.
I'll say this. Tua is a system quarterback.
Right.
And if I'm not running a version of that Shanahan offense, I'm not interested in Tua, right? Because you have to tailor the offense to what he does well, which is on time, timing throws, those in-breaking routes. That's what he does. Instinctually, that's what he does. So for me, if asking from as a GM standpoint, if I'm in that Shanahan tree, I would consider it maybe for a late round, but I have to be in desperation.
A late round pick.
Late round pick.
Yeah.
I got to be
that.
because it's not just the player and it's not just the draft compensation. There's going to be another conversation about the contract.
Of course.
And how much are we taking on? Are the Dolphins willing to pay some of that to get rid of him?
Eat some of it.
And so that's going to further the conversation along, but it depends on my system and how desperate I am to for a quarterback.
If they don't fire Mike McDaniel, I think he should bench Tua and put in Quinn Ewers.
I was actually going to ask you that because you
that to
mentioned
me
Fernando
is how
Mendoza.
that's to me how you show your players that Tua is no different than anybody else. If he doesn't perform, he gets benched, because that's life as a player in the NFL for most people. But you're getting special treatment, as we've seen from Tua throughout the Mike McDaniel era since he took that FaceTime call and said, I'm here for you. I think if he benched him and let Quinn Ewers go out there and play, I think it would send a message to that locker room.
You did mention, I did actually want to follow on that, so I'm glad you brought it back up. You mentioned Fernando Mendoza. I know you kind of just threw that out there, but Quinn Ewers is on the team. He did get some play today. Mike McDaniel said that he won the backup conversation. Is there a world where you could see Quinn growing into that unit, or right now he's just kind of a backup?
That might be a reason to play him, to see, all right, let's find out what we have. Maybe you stumble into somebody who's a diamond in the rough that you got in later rounds, and then you find out, all right, do we need to go spend a top pick on a quarterback next year? So I think it's worth the very least of letting him go out there and see if he can do it.
But here's the thing, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Haley.
All good.
Who's making that call?
That's what I mean.
Because if we're talking about moving on from the GM and moving on from the head coach, who is Quinn Ewers?
That's what I was going to say. Can you imagine?
For?
Can you imagine? Hey, Steven, by the way, I know we all might be out here, but we're going to sit Tua down and play Quinn Ewers. The hell you are!
Tua Tagovailoa, the first quarterback with 3 interceptions in back-to-back games since Phillip Rivers did it in 2019. The Dolphins are off to a terrible start. I do want to put a bow on this conversation really quick and talk about the Browns. It was a big win. I know it wasn't sexy, guys, but they do get a win. Rand, real quick, your thoughts on Cleveland and Quinshon Judkins behind you.
You know me. You know where I'm going with it.
See how I lobbed you for that?
Hey.
He went right to the running back.
A little shovel pass to my running back.
And I'll take it and dunk it. They have the formula. You have a really good defense and you have a strong running game, and you don't need the young quarterback to do too much, and they showed that today.
3.4 per rush.
It don't matter. He scored 3
They didn't have to do
touchdowns.
anything. They just sat on
3.4
it.
per rush.
And in that weather where you knew it wasn't going to be a threat to throw the ball downfield.
Yep.
We're going to leave it at that. We're going to leave it at that. The Cleveland Browns get a big win. The Dolphins get a big fat L, and potentially their head coach might be on his way out. We will wait to see if and when that happens. In the meantime, let's take a quick timeout here on Game Day Recap. When we come back, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense has been under a lot of scrutiny from this panel. Did Jalen do enough to impress our guys? You'll find out next.